Lindsay.
I'm Davita.
And we're the two Pilates Chicks, and it is season 6, episode 13.
Yes.
Whew. That took us like 5 times today to get right.
Lots of takes.
Lots of takes. Luckily, it was at the beginning, because if we mess up after, we don't stop. We just keep going. You get to deal with it. So this one, I like this one. We've kind of talked about cueing in different episodes. Y'all can go back and, I don't know, season 3 or 4, I think we had one. But this isn't when no cue works.
Yeah.
When it's like, nope, not going to happen.
It's just like any cue you're trying to give, just like nothing is really hitting, and you just keep either saying the same thing or trying different things, and it's just not working.
So we kind of thought about this on 2 levels of like the teacher aspect of it, but also as a client, because we're both clients as well as teachers. But I mean, it's kind of a loaded question about what makes a good cue.
Right. And it depends on the person, right? On the client.
On the client, yeah.
What makes a good cue is something that connects the client to the exercise in the way that's needed.
Yeah, and guides them where they need to go. Yeah. They understand and they can wrap their brain around it.
Yeah, so something that connects to them, something that hits for them. So it's very individualized. But it's also like cues are things that help clients keep learning, keep finding what they need in their body, keep finding what they need to figure out about the exercise. Yeah,
and I don't know who it was, but it's like we always want our clients to leave having learned something about themselves. Mm-hmm. Like, and that's what you were talking about. Like, you want the cue so that they have to figure something out on their own and kind of not be told, oh, make sure this is like this, and this is the moving this, instead of them going, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. So maybe a cue helps them adjust themselves or see where they need to reach more, or what's needed to achieve that exercise. And it helps them figure it out in their own body. Like, oh, yeah, I was reaching my left leg more there, and that's how I found my right leg more.
Yeah, or the spring kind of tells them, right? Because the spring, they go, oh, wait, what just happened?
Yeah.
What just happened?
And you'll see, like, I know I do it all the time. Like, the first movement, like, you start doing it, and the body's like, woo! And then the second and third, you're like, okay, that's where I need to be.
Yeah, yeah. Like, I love when people get into the footwork, and you're just, okay, heels together, toes apart, push out, and they're like, ooh, yeah, and you can see them kind of. And I think someone said, Joseph Pilates said, you have 40 times to figure it out.
Yeah.
Because you're doing 10, 4, yeah. And they're figuring it out. And it's also kind of that, what we talk about a lot is giving the client a focus.
Yeah.
Like your cue can give them a focus, something to like gear towards or work towards or
to help guide them where they need. I mean, and overall, the cueing is just something to help the client move, help them connect, help them find that focus, help them, like whatever it is that's needed.
Yeah, it's not about the teacher. It's about the client. And the other thing we talked about is, for us, what makes a good cue is something that's very simple, clear, and direct, so that it's not this mishmash of all this stuff that the client's got to kind of sort through because they're moving and they're dealing with this spring or whatever. And if it's just simple, clear, and direct, they're like, oh, got it.
Yeah. And that's often like an actionable cue will help that just automatically happen instead of, like you're saying, like the client having to like sort through all these different metaphors and images. And if there's a certain image that works for them, then you go to that one. If you know, like, oh, they know like the pelvic clock. Right. And I can tell them to tip their 12.
It can be super simple, right? Yeah. But you're not going to go through, okay, now here's your pelvic clock and da-da-da-da-da. It's like, oh, remember our pelvic clock? Yes. Yeah. There you go.
And so, I mean, that just shows that cues have to be built over time. Because if you've talked about the pelvic clock, since we're using that as an example, with the client in the past, then they know where they're 12 and 6 and 3 and 9. And they know where that is.
It's like a song.
Yeah. And so if you're cueing back to it, if you're seeing that that's what's needing to be cued or focused on, then they're understanding what you're saying.
Yeah. And I think that's the other thing. Is like you're not going to bombard the client with a bunch of like the pelvic clock and whatever. I use a lot of Kathy Grant before the 100 imagery and stuff, but you're not going to like unload that all at once. You're going to, again, see this cue is not happening, so maybe I can give this kind of experience or imagery to get a connection.
Yeah, because that relies on the teacher watching the client to see what's needed. Mm-hmm. So you have to be watching them move. You can't already be like, oh, you have to do this. It's like, well, you have to see them move first. You have to see what's needed and maybe missing or not connecting.
Yeah. And you're not going to see that right off the bat. You're not going to see that in the first exercise. It's like they just started.
Yeah. Sometimes the body just needs couple exercises to settle and adjust and
get the brain
get
there
into it. Yeah.
Get grounded and all of that. So I think we were talking about, and I don't even know if we kept it in our notes, but it was kind of like, if you think about it that way, it's like what makes a good cue is, like you just said, letting the body move, seeing what, instead of cueing what's going to happen or needs to happen or where they need to be before they've even moved.
Yeah.
So you're cueing things that they have no kind of like concept of because they're just still.
Yeah. Well, and it's so different than, if you're setting them up for an exercise and you're cueing the setup and the choreography, that's different than trying to cue them of what their body needs to do in that exercise before they even start moving.
Exactly.
Because, you could have an idea maybe if you know this client, but every day can be different. And we really don't know what their body's going to do that day. So you need to, cue the setup, cue the exercise, the choreography, let them start moving, and then you see what's not happening.
Yeah, exactly.
Then you can give the cues that might be necessary.
Yeah. And we've seen it, it happens a lot in the teacher training when the students are all learning and they do something and one of them will say, oh, I felt it here when I did this, like whatever body part.
Yeah.
And then the others will be like, well, I felt it here. Mm-hmm. Well, I felt it. Everyone feels something different.
Different, yeah.
So to tell someone, use this and make sure when you do this, this is what's going to happen. Mm-hmm. It may not be a good, because it's not going to be what happens in their body.
Yeah. And then, so if you're telling someone like, oh, feel it in your hamstrings.
Mm-hmm. Use your abs.
Yeah. And so then, and if that client, if that doesn't connect for them, if that's not where their body's working from, then they'll think they're doing it wrong, even though they're doing it right. And it's just manifesting differently in their body because their body's different.
Yeah. And it's like, the way we teach is like every exercise is full body. So of course the abs are going to be working, the hamstrings, this is going to be working. It's all connected. But it might, like you just said, it might speak, the brain to that body is going to speak in a little different, like an orchestra, a little different order.
Yeah.
Than maybe the next person.
Some people feel the exercise a little bit more emphasized here in the body versus here.
Exactly.
And so it really depends on the person. So if you're cueing specifically, like your pelvis has to be right here. And
don't let it move.
Feel this. And if that's just not what works for their body,
they're going to think it's a fail.
Yeah.
But they didn't do it right.
And it's not going to feel good in their body.
No.
So if cues that are good are ones that help the client connect to the exercise, help the client connect to their bodies, and help it move.
Yeah. And learn and like figure things out. And I think that, is this like a good point to kind of give our examples of our... Well, let's go with this. It's like we kind of talked about, we were talking about when we had Kevin Bowen on for the mini-series, our first one. Mm-hmm. We'll have more. And he talked about, Eve Gentry talked about not teaching like you're teaching on a conveyor belt.
Yeah.
And if you think about cues and just the same cues for every single client, it's not going to, they're going to be lost because the cue for... Emily that comes in who's 25 and blah, 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 to the cue to someone else who's 50-ish, had knee, whatever it is. Like everybody's so different. And to use those same cues for every single exercise and every single person.
Yeah. I mean, so then it's just super boring for the teacher, and you're just on your conveyor belt or your, what do you say, your flight attendant?
Yeah, it's that flight attendant. It almost feels like the voice would be like, okay, so now we're going to do, and then it's just that
it's just
monotonous.
Same for everybody. So then it's, the cues that we use, like, yes, of course, we have certain cues that generally are for certain exercises. So when you're learning an exercise in teacher training, like you learn, okay, here's the setup, here's the choreography, here's the contraindications, here's some general cues that work for this that you're looking for and that you want within the exercise. Now, when you're first working with a client and you're using those general cues to see kind of, okay, to guide the choreography.
Yes, exactly.
Then as you get to know them or as they get to know the choreography, you have different layers, those deeper layers of cues to help them connect to it in the way that they need.
Yeah.
And so it's not like, yes, the certain exercises, yes, we have this like bag of cues that works for this, but then what within those cues are needed for this client?
It's almost like the peeling of an onion layers, like when you're first learning as a teacher or as a client. It's this just basic outside, general. And then the deeper you get, then you're going deeper into the layers of the cueing.
Yeah.
Instead of just being that general.
Yeah. That first layer.
Yeah.
I mean, and as teachers, if we're just using the first like general layer of cues all the time, like, yes, we're going to be bored. We're not going to feel like we're connecting to the work.
The client's will get bored,
Yeah. Client's not connecting to the work. So as we're digging deeper, you don't have to learn 800 different exercises. Like, you can use that same exercise, but you help the client connect in different ways, in deeper ways. They're learning about their body. They're learning the work more. We're, like, exploring that with them. And that's what's so fascinating.
That's fascinating, too. It is. And it's like I think, like, we were talking to one of the students, shout out to Mia, who just graduated. And when we're so passionate about it and wanting to dive deeper into it, then that goes with the client. And so you're exploring this together and those cues together.
Yeah.
Learning not only what works for the client in their body, but their mind. Mm-hmm. Like how they think.
Yeah. Well, and it all goes together, because in a past episode about cueing that we've done, we talked about cueing as a conversation, and we talked about the like techniques of cueing. And we talked about like the actionable cues, the intrinsic and extrinsic focus points of cues. And people learn differently. So people have different ways of absorbing what we're saying. Like, some people are visual learners, so maybe you do have to show something at some point, but you shouldn't rely on having to show every single exercise to get a client to do it. And then, yes, maybe somebody needs a little bit of tactile support, but we shouldn't be relying on our body to be pushing the client in a certain way. So really the verbal cues are the most important for what we do. And we have to find the different ways that verbal cueing connects for that client, how they think and how they learn.
Right.
And so maybe it is action, maybe it is a metaphor, maybe, whatever it is that works for that client.
Yeah. And I think that kind of gets into the different cue aspect of it that we're going to go into, which is like what we talked about, actionable cues, push here, reach here, press, pull, feel this, ground into this, and the imagery. Mm-hmm. And then we have the tactile cueing, which we talked about. And then you could throw in, like, I feel like, just getting on my little soapbox, that the anatomy cues in Pilates for your general client don't really help.
Yeah.
I mean, I just from being in teacher training and with clients, and we've both seen it, it's like, I've had the client come in patting on their quadriceps saying, my hamstrings are so tight. Yeah. It's like half the people, and they don't care.
Yeah.
It's like, and pelvic whatever, this or that.
Yeah, cues that specifically target anatomical words about the pelvic region are very disconnecting for people.
Very confusing.
Very confusing. People get a little uncomfortable with that too. If you talk about like the pelvic bone, like, some people are talking about the fronts of your hip bones when they're saying pelvis. Some people actually mean the actual, like, pubic bone. And the words around that, some people are
very uncomfortable
with it.
Yeah. And that's, I mean, yeah. So it's just a pet peeve. It's like something for me. And it also never spoke to me as a client either.
Yeah. Like when you're moving.
Yeah. And I remember it's just like, but we find that out as teachers. But just our opinion, it's like,
yeah. I mean, and I, coming from an anatomy kinesiology background, like I do like to use some anatomy with a client if I'm teaching them about something or if they ask me a question.
Definitely.
But I don't cue, like, pull from your hamstrings. Like, as an example, maybe I'll say,
because,
like...
yeah, if you think about it, if someone says, pull from your hamstrings, and you're sitting there going, how do I do that?
How do I
like, pull from my... It's like... If you really sit, and so for a lot of clients, it's this whole like, and they're just going to go,
Yeah. And so let's say we're doing bridge,
We'll just pick shoulder bridge because everyone will go, I know that.
I get that. So if you're telling somebody to like push their hips to the ceiling, that's
super easy.
Yeah, that's an action. If you tell somebody to lift their hips by pulling their hamstrings or lift your hips by squeezing your glutes, that gets very grippy. That can get very confusing. And
also, wouldn't you feel, I mean, we could physically do this because we're on a mat, but if you say, squeeze your glutes to lift your hips, I don't think my hips will get as high.
Yeah, they don't, because you're actually, by squeezing the glutes, you're kind of
tucking a bit.
Kind of tucking. So if you're trying to get somebody to find a full hip lift to their best ability and a shoulder bridge, you're doing hip extension. So the pelvis has to be placed in a certain way where you're not going to be clenching your glutes. And often when people think about gripping your glutes or your hamstrings to get a shoulder bridge, it tends to cramp their hamstrings.
It definitely cramps up.
So if you're cueing, press down through the arms to get the opposition.
Or even like pulling your heels, feel like you're pulling your heels towards your rear end.
And that
right there
automatically fires the hamstrings without having to think about it.
And cramping them up.
Yeah. Because it's getting more length in the pull.
Yeah.
So it ends up giving a clearer, more direct path to what you're asking for.
Simple, clear, direct. It should be a shirt.
Simple, clear, direct. And so the action cues and sometimes certain imagery does help get that direct movement to the best of the client's ability.
Yeah.
Because, like, do you want to sit there and sort through, like, okay, my pubic bone's here. They want the pubic bone to pull this way. And then it's...
And that's where so all they're thinking about is all that information, which is taking away movement.
Yeah. And kind of taking away that centering that we want in Pilates, too.
Yeah, and that kind of grounding and figuring out where you are in space, that proprioception of how do I get here and what do I need to make happen.
Because you're, just let the body move. And if you're given an action, you naturally go and do that.
Yeah.
It reaches its centering.
Yeah. And it's like, why are we cueing something like you just use the shoulder bridge? Okay, I want to say clench, but you didn't say that. Use your glutes to do this. They haven't even lifted their hips up yet. So you're already telling them, this is what you're going to use.
Yeah.
Which we won't go into it, but like we've talked about in previous episodes when we've kind of compared teaching kind of the PT to Pilates and the anatomy and this and that. They're working on a specific thing. So, of course, they're going to say, fire this muscle because this is but in Pilates, it's like, no, we want, like you said, use your arms, do this, blah, blah, blah.
And I was just thinking that too, like when I'm working with somebody more orthopedically, like if they're coming and you're working, if it's appropriate in your scope, if you're working on a rehab pathway with somebody and you do need to work on muscle firing patterns, that's a completely different thing. But if you're teaching Pilates, you want full body movement. You don't want them, PT. You don't want them to be moving from X muscle. You want it to be full body. And if they just can't, like, connect, let's say, again, shoulder bridge, if they just can't connect to the glutes, how can we get them to find that back line? Because it's not just the glutes.
It's not the glutes, it's the whole back line.
So how can you connect them to that back line in a simpler way? Press into your feet.
And your arms,
hips
like
to
you
the
just
ceiling.
said, press into your arms, because the arms are connected to our back line. It's like, it's like not just like walking down the street. We're not just using our glutes.
Right. You can like propel yourself forward from your glutes, but you're doing
other
that,
things are working too.
But the way to do that, let's say, like, okay, push from your back leg to take a step forward. That there's more direct ways to find that.
Yeah.
And so it's simpler and
simple
more
and clear
for the clients.
Yeah.
And that can help them connect to the movement better.
And I think we were talking with actually Mia before we jumped on, and she was talking about, when a cue isn't working.
Yeah.
Which it does, and you can speak to this because I know we talked about how it makes us feel as teachers. But you've tried multiple different, you're not saying the same cue over and over, you've tried multiple different ways of saying it. And we both have examples of we were thinking, and it's like I had a client that was new, and we started on the mat, and we went into one leg circles, and her leg was so bent, it wasn't straight, it was just like hanging. And, I said, see if you can lengthen the back of your knees. See if I tried different ways of saying, straighten out your legs. Nothing changed. And we went through, got on the apparatus, blah, 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 and you see these patterns. And it's like, I didn't sit there and do that cue, even though that was still happening in other places, to keep saying in different ways how to straighten your legs, because it just wasn't going to happen.
Yeah.
And I didn't, I'm like, okay, I don't know what I'm seeing. I don't know what's going on. But then as you teach and you give those actionable cues and things for them to fire into, then guess what? Over time, her legs are starting to straighten more. She's feeling more of that connection. So it's like sometimes what you need to happen in cue isn't going to connect 'cause it's just not there yet.
Yeah.
Like we talked about with an exercise.
You have to build into it. You have to build the understanding, build the layers to get there. And I was just thinking, like, if she's laying there in her one leg circle and she's prepped and ready, and you're like, can you reach that leg? See where you can reach that leg?
Maybe she is. Like,
maybe
in her
she
mind.
is. Yeah.
And we can't.
You can't see it.
And we can't feel it. So it's like...
maybe that is straight for her.
Exactly. And it's like, I tell this to students all the time. It's like, sometimes I'll say, you'll tell someone, round more here, do this, that, and you don't visually see anything. But I can guarantee you, if you put your hand, you'll feel their muscles trying, like working.
Yeah. Or
but
you can
visually,
see their
you're not...
effort.
Yeah.
Like, but you're not going to, like, see the shape change necessarily.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think that's like something to think about too when you're cueing in terms of they're not getting it.
And and we're not trying to perfect them to look a certain way. We're trying to just connect them to their movement and their body. And so sometimes, if you're just giving the same cue or giving variations of a similar cue for the same idea, and nothing's changing and they're just not getting it, it's just not working. You're like, okay, you just as they're moving, I like to say, like, okay, keep moving and think about blah, blah, blah.
Blah, blah, blah.
And I try that a couple ways while they're moving to keep them in movement.
And then then you're like, I'm done.
And then you're like, in my mind, I'll think, okay, that's not working today, but we got that movement there, and then let's move to the next thing. Just like, okay, so next we're going to do whatever. And maybe they do that exercise in that way a handful of times for different sessions, and eventually it makes a little bit more sense. Or maybe you find a cue at some point that works for them. So you just let them keep moving, and they keep working at it, but it might not look perfect that day, and that's fine.
And I mean, really, it's like, what is perfect in Pilates? Right. There is no perfect in Pilates. Everybody's so different. But I think that goes into, did we already talk about, like, each exercise, you're teaching that exercise to that body. Mm-hmm. You're not teaching the body to that. Dude, I mean, you're not saying you need to fit this exercise. It's like, how can we get this exercise to fit for you?
Yeah.
How can we cue it for you to get the most out of this movement?
Yeah. Because we're not trying to make the client fit the exercise. We have these Pilates exercises, and we give the ones to the client that make sense for them, and we try to make the exercise work for them.
Yeah. With whatever concepts are in that exercise that are throughout the whole work.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to think, and we see this with all these workshops out there now of how to cue for this, and this is cueing for this, and it's just really, therethere's no perfect cue for an exercise. There's no perfect cue for anything. Yeah. It's like you're just, each time your client comes in, I can't speak, is different. Their body is different. Like today, we both had at the same exact time, and both their names were Susan. Yeah. So they're named the same. And both of them came in saying, I didn't get much sleep last night. Like both of them. And so, but they were both very different. Completely different in their sessions. So you would think, oh, well, they're both tired. This is what's going to happen.
They're both around the same age. They're both
around the same age. Everything. It's like, you would think, okay, no, totally different. Very different. And actually, I was surprised that mine was as connected and as in it.
I was too.
I was just like, well, this is going to be a white hot mess today. But no, we started moving, and I'm like, okay.
Like, here we go.
Here we go. And she was fine. And she was like, because she came in, I don't know, I might fall asleep on the reformer.
Oh, yeah, she did say that.
I'll try not to fall asleep.
Yeah. But I think overall, like, it's really important as teachers to not get frustrated when you're trying to deliver a cue to get a client to do a certain thing and it just doesn't seem like it's working. To just feel like, okay, it's not us.
No.
We're not bad teachers. There's no goal to make this client do this. We're just giving these cues as a way to guide the client to the best of their ability to do what we're trying to achieve.
I think that's a good point. What you just said is like, it's not that we're bad teachers because we're trying to get them to do something, but it's like just seeing what they can do and going with them and just realizing, okay, this cue is not working, and that's okay.
And maybe even, I was just thinking, like, that cue is not working because that's a missing link in their motor control or motor habits. And then that can guide you on your session. Like, okay, they can't find that hip extension in shoulder bridge. Let's then, the next things we do, let's move on in other ways to see where we can find
an
hip extension or that connection.
Yeah.
And then that can guide the work with them.
Yeah.
So it can actually just be, when a cue doesn't work, that can actually just be good information.
Yeah. It's like, oh, okay, now I have something to work with.
And it can be interesting.
Yeah, and it makes it interesting. And I think especially for newer teachers, because I remember being a new teacher, is you sometimes find a cue that works. And you're like, ooh, yay.
Magic cue.
Magic cue. And then you give it to someone, they're like, I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, you give it to someone
else.
And
you're just like, wait, what? No, it worked so well for that person. But that's just it. Each cue is as individual as the client.
Yeah. And that's why one of our other episodes on cueing was talking about cueing as a conversation. You're giving a cue to a client, you're seeing how they respond, they're giving you information back by how you're seeing them respond, and then you're giving the next cue or the next layer.
I mean, everyone's listening to each other and just having this language go back and forth, and it's very specific for the teacher and that individual client.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Yeah.
I love it. But yeah, there's no magic cue.
No. But there's just ways of thinking about movement, ways of helping guide the client. And it's a process. It's just always a process.
And I think also it's really important to remember as teachers that it's not about us, that it's about the client.
Yeah.
So it's not about them doing the perfect swan or teaser or the roll up or whatever it is. It's like, okay, their leg's not straight and they're doing, it's fine. So we're going to figure things out. But it's not this be all end all.
Yeah. It's not
we got to get to this
ultimate goal.
Yeah.
They're moving. We want to keep them safe and moving and feel better when they leave. And that's the goal.
Yeah. And to feel like they learned something. Yeah. And we didn't really talk about a lot of tactile cueing, but I feel like with tactile, it's one of those things where you're giving them something to feel.
Yeah.
And then you walk away. And you let them go, oh, that's what I need to, imagine my hand is still there. Instead of, pushing someone into something or stopping their movement by holding them.
Yeah. It should be just more feedback and more the tactile cue as just another layer of that cue that you're doing it for a reason to give more information to help them learn what they need in that exercise.
Exactly. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think that was good. Yeah. I like cueing. It's fascinating like a conversation.
And people get very, like, scared about it and, like, anxious about it. So
they do.
Really interesting to talk about.
Yeah. And I feel like, did you have something else on cueing?
No.
Oh, okay. But it's because this is coming out the week of our October group mentoring meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, what's the day?
Thursday, 16th?
16th, yeah. I think it's Thursday the 16th, or it's close to that. We have our October group mentoring.
Yep.
And it's from 1 to 3 Pacific time, Zoom. And you can go on our website and just go to the Continuing Education Group Mentoring Program or upcoming events. Mm-hmm. And you just go to upcoming events and just click it. Yeah,
because that'll be the one coming out. And we'll talk about this sort of stuff with specific issues with clients and challenging issues
with clients and how to teach and what they can and can't do. And we send like a little questions for the participants to answer so we can kind of have an idea of what they're struggling with or what they're wanting from the mentorship meet.
Yeah,
so
to specify it to who joins us.
Yeah, we really cater it towards who's in it with us. But you can watch the recording or join us live.
Yeah.
But other than that, go check out our website anyway. We've got the group mentoring program and also the study of the system, which starts in January.
Yeah.
Yay.
And past episodes on cueing. So if you want to hear more about the cueing as a conversation or the specific techniques of cueing when we were talking about actionable and
those are on there too.
Focuses.
Yeah. Yep. Or you can go on Apple or Spotify. But we have them on our website.
Yeah. Yeah. So they're all there.
And our blogs too. So
that talk about them as well.
That talk about it, yeah. We've got a lot on cueing. We think it's very important.
Yeah.
But anyway, thanks for listening.
Bye.
See you next time. I say that. See you next time. Bye.